So how many of you have ever taken a theater class, whether here at UM or at a community center in high school? Raise your hands. OK, so there's a few of you over out here. So for you, the beginning of this talk might be a little bit of review, because I'm going to give you guys all a tuition-free taste of Theater 101 here at the University of Miami. Don't worry, I'm going to be the only one doing a monologue, and nobody's going to get any tests during this talk. So here at the University of Miami BFA Acting Conservatory, of which I'm a student, one of the first things that we learned is how to create a character. Now, there are a lot of acting schools with a lot of different techniques that they use to create the best performance. But here at UM, what we learned was a variation on the Stanislavski method. Now, if you follow Hollywood at all, you may have heard of method actors before. Usually what you hear in the press is pretty sensational stuff. You might have heard of Daniel Day-Lewis, who's he always uses the method on his film roles. But just recently on the set of Lincoln, he stayed in character as Abraham Lincoln 24/7, even when he wasn't shooting. Now, every year there are several actors and actresses who gain or lose a tremendous amount of weight to get really in the feeling of being their character for a role. And probably most famously, both of the two actors who most recently played the Joker in any kind of Batman film, Heath Ledger and Jared Leto, received a lot of press for their very extreme methods of getting into character and the effects, the detrimental effects that had on their mental health and on the mental health of their coworkers. So when you hear about method acting in the news, it's usually pretty sensational, really out there stuff of actors going to extreme methods to get into character for a film. But as we learned during our first few classes at UM, if you go back to Konstantin Stanislavski's theory, Konstantin Stanislavski was a 19th century Russian actor and director, best known for his book, An Actor Prepares. If you go back to his theory, you'll discover that this really wasn't what he intended at all. What we learned here at UM is that it's a lot safer for your mental and physical health, and also produces much more consistent performances if you immerse yourself in research. We tackle acting by researching everything we could possibly know about our characters. We try to find the historical context, their relationship with other characters in the scene, their likes and dislikes, and most importantly, the things that they want in a scene and what they're willing to do to get it. Those are called objectives and tactics. So in a scene, I might try to make my roommate move out of the apartment through passive aggression, or get my mom to tell me what I'm getting for my birthday this year through flattery. In every scene, we take a look at the text, we figure out what our character wants, and then we show you the physical manifestations of trying to get it. Now the thing is, when done well, this sort of craft-driven acting is just as effective as these crazy methods of getting into character. So say I wanted you to bully you into giving me your lunch money through intimidation. So I might yell at you really loud and then get really quiet and wait for you to hand over those 25 cents. And if I got really mad up here, or really sad, or really happy, and I showed you all of that on my face and with my body and with my voice, well, that would look exactly the same as if I was feeling those feelings. I could be up here thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner tonight, or thinking about the final that I have at 3:30 today that I haven't studied for yet. But if I was showing you all on my outside that I looked angry, or sad, or disappointed, you wouldn't necessarily know what was going on up here. See, those Hollywood actors go from an inside-out attempt to get into character, of getting their inner state to where they want, and then their outer state follows. Well, we here at UM go outside in. We do all the things of showing you that we feel whatever it is, and then most of the time, muscle memory follows. But not always. 8 shows a week, you can't always feel super sad. And that's okay. For you, it looks exactly the same. So, acting lesson over. Congratulations, you guys all got an A. Well done. So, most of you are probably thinking, though, OK, Madelyn, that's interesting. That's an interesting little bit of trivia. I didn't know about how people act, but I don't want to be an actress. I don't want to be a theater person. Even most of you that raised your hands for having taken a theater class probably don't want to do it professionally. What's the point? How does this help me in my real life? Well, I'm going to get to that, but first I want to talk a little bit about us Canes. So all of us here at the University of Miami, regardless of our major, regardless of our interests, have something in common. We're all really freaking smart. We wouldn't have gotten into this kind of prestigious university or wanted to come here in the first place if we weren't pretty brilliant people who had something that we wanted to do with our lives. Canes and people of our generation in general are really ambitious. We have this feeling that there's something that we're meant to do in the world, something that we should achieve, that we're supposed to go out there and make waves. But it's a lot harder than that, right? All of us have dreams and things we want to do, but it's really hard to get out there and turn it into a successful thing in the real world. But see, that's where the power of pretend comes in. Now, we all have anxiety about adulting and this imposter syndrome that someone's going to figure out that we're frauds. But I discovered that my acting training that I've received here at UM has been really applicable to my real life. I've been able to take this principle of behaving as a character to become a character and apply it in my offstage world. It's been really, really useful for me in a lot of ways, and I'm going to explain that to you now. Now, I know that this sounds, pretty great. You can take the power of pretend and suddenly all your dreams come true. Well, it's not quite that easy. As me or any of my classmates could tell you, our first year in the conservatory was very frustrating. We'd take our scripts home, we'd pore over them, we'd try to figure out the right objectives and tactics, and then we'd bring it into class and our professor would say, "You saw that in there, really?" But over time, it became easier. And that'll happen for you too. So the way the power of pretend works is like this. It's a 3-step process. Step 1, you've got to figure out your character and what your objective is. So you're in this scene that you call your life, and you're playing a character, but there's a character that you want to be, your ideal self, a goal that you want to achieve. Now, we could all be up here for hours talking about how to figure out what that goal is, but you're here at TED today, and you're here at UMiami, so I'm going to assume that you have some idea of what it is you want to do with your life. So that's your ideal character. That's your objective that you're working towards. For me, my big dream in my life is to found and run a theater company and make cool art that really affects people. Cheesy and corny, acting cliche, perhaps, but that's what I want to do. So step 2. It's time to start rehearsals. So you've got this character that you want to become, but how are you going to do it? What skills do you need? Start learning those things, or at least learning how to pretend you know how to do them, and make it so that you're ready to step into that role. And now, here we are, step 3. It's opening night. It's time to perform. If you've got all the skills you need now to perform as this character, what does that character do? Is it a job you need to apply for, an internship, a grant? Or is it just time to step out into the world as this person you want to be and make it happen for yourself? That's the power of pretend. Now, there's kind of a step 2.5 in there that I didn't mention. Now, when you were coming up with that character that you wanted to be, did you include any self-doubt in that? Did you say to yourself, I want to be a writer, but a writer who thinks her work isn't very good? Or a scientist, but one who's sort of uncertain that what they're doing really matters? I bet you didn't. So let's not bring that into our performance either. There are going to be times where you feel like you're a pretender in the negative sense of the word, where you don't know what you're doing or you're in over your head. Well, do it anyway. That doesn't mean don't ask for help and don't ask questions. Definitely do that. When I'm working on a character, whether in class or for a performance, I always talk to my director or my professor to try to get help to make the character and the performance the best it can possibly be. But when you're out there performing, don't let them see that you're nervous. Sometimes when I get up on stage, I forget my lines. I've done it in this presentation about 3 times, and I hope you didn't know, but maybe you did. But you can be up on stage. Sometimes your lines are going to go up. Sometimes the prop that you thought was there, someone has forgot to set. Sometimes you're going to miss a dance step. But when you're on stage, you can't show the audience that something's going wrong, because if you do, they'll notice. If you pretend like everything's going fine, chances are they'll say, huh, that's an interesting part of the play. And that'll happen for you in your life too. Now, I've used the power of pretend in my life, and it's probably brought me the most successful and rewarding experience that I've ever had. So about a year ago today, I applied for the ACC IAC Creativity and Innovation Fellowship here at UM. Basically, it's a grant that gives you some money to pursue a creative or innovative project over the summer. There's not very much oversight to it in the summer project. You have to submit a proposal and a budget, and then it's your job to get it done by the end of August and then write a report about it at the end. So when you're an artist and you see free money to do artistic projects, you grab it. You always grab it because it's not there very often. So I got it in my head that I was going to apply to create interactive children's theater based on a style of theater that I had worked on earlier that year called forum theater. Now, I didn't have that much experience with forum theater, and the only experience with children's theater I had was my 2 baby sisters interrupting all of my shows in high school. But I decided to do it. What the heck? So I applied for the grant, and the weeks passed. School year ended. I assumed I didn't get it. That was fine. I moved into the summer, and then at the end of May, I got an email. And I had gotten the grant. $3,000 to put on children's theater interactive shows. So after a moment of excitement, I started to panic. What was I thinking when I applied for this? I didn't know how to do this at all. I had barely any experience with interactive theater. I had no experience with children's theater. How was I supposed to start a whole theater company from scratch in one summer? I almost right then and there emailed back and said, sorry, this was a mistake. You thought I actually knew how to do this, and I don't. But then something stubborn in me made me accept. And at first, I was sort of all over the place trying to make this theater happen. I joined every DC moms group because I was doing this in my hometown of Washington, DC, and family group and theater group, and I was posting about needing actors and needing help. And at first, I didn't really get any response. Just as random college student Madelyn Paquette, saying, hey, somebody do some shows with me, please. Nobody took me very seriously. So I realized that if I was going to make this happen, I had to make myself serious, and I had to pretend that I knew what I was doing. So I decided, let's not treat this as a summer project. Let's treat this as a new professional theater company. So I named my company Once Upon a Stage Interactive Children's Theater Troupe, because we were doing interactive versions of classic fairy tales. I sat down, I wrote scripts. Sometimes you just gotta make yourself right. I put together a website and a social media presence, and I started posting as Once Upon a Stage instead of just college student Madelyn. And suddenly I got a lot more interest. I had actors who wanted to audition. I was able to reserve a rehearsal space. I had libraries who were asking me to do extra performances. Suddenly, everything came together. Now, all summer, I felt like I was pretending, and I was in over my head, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I kept my cool and just pretended, hey, I'm a professional artist, artistic director, and I know exactly what I'm doing. So when I applied for the grant originally, I said that my goal was to perform at 6 performances in libraries over the course of the whole summer. I thought even that was going to be a stretch. I was going to be happy if I got 3. By the end of the summer, we had performed at 12 libraries for hundreds of children, and right now I'm in the process of looking for grant money to bring us back again with a new season of shows real soon. I pretended that I knew how to do this, and somewhere along the way, I achieved my goal of founding a theater. So a playwright called William Shakespeare once said, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. So let's all get out there and be the characters we're supposed to be. Thank you all.